title did I give the talk? I don't remember, but I forgot.
The primary assumptions.
Good one. So the title of this evening's Dharma talk is The Primary Assumptions. Primary first, the first assumption. The first assumption seems to be that there's something else, something out there, something out there, that there's an other. And that's soon followed by, well, if there's something out there, then there must be something here. Seeing, witnessing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking about something out there. This is commonly called duality. Sometimes it's called the way the 8 worldly dharmas show up, or praise and blame, winning and losing, life and death for that matter. There's a couple more I can't think of. But any kind of duality will fit that. So what happens is when we live our life and we're going along, we tend to, everything is going smooth and that doesn't seem to be a problem. But as soon as there's a problem with anything, anywhere, out there, in here, what happens is blame. We start to blame this, or we blame that, and we accuse, and we take issue with it because we don't see that things are dependently arisen. In other words, anything that looks like a separate thing has a certain kind of separation or identity to it, but the fundamental situation that's happening there is it is dependent on all kinds of other things. There is no own being or self-being that is central and unique and sovereign unto itself as a human form. Excuse me. So it doesn't mean there isn't something happening there that seems like a self, but the fundamental understanding is not separate. And so if we don't see that just as it is, well, we tend to suffer, and we tend to cause suffering for others and go to war with them over our opinions, our ideas, our hopes and fears. But if you look around, there's warfare everywhere. You can't find a single war that ever solved any problem at all. You could come up with a politics or philosophy around it and say, well, yeah, we went to war and stopped the Germans. Well, that's not looking at the entire situation. And I'm not going to go off into politics if I can help it. So there's a formula in Buddhist teaching and what's called yogacara, or mind-only teaching. And one of the teachings by an old scholar monk by the name of Vasubandhu put it this way, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't quote it, but it's close. So when consciousness or perception or awareness, when awareness doesn't reside, when awareness, sound, smell, taste, touch, thinking, think of a red envelope. Got it? That's thought. That arises in the mind stream in the form of the memory showing up in a visual way. When awareness or consciousness fails to reside in just perception only, just a perception. Here's a perception. There's no one hearing that, and there's nothing to be heard that is separate. There is a hearing, but it's not separate. There is a thinking, there are thoughts, there are emotions, feelings, memories, but they're not separate. So when awareness does not reside or stay in its aspect, in its relationship to whatever is arising or whatever is seeing the arising or witnessing that, when that awareness does not reside in just the perception of it, not the object, not the observer, but just the perception, then the two kinds or the two ways of grasping The two ways of being at odds with everything will not cease to operate, and you will continue to fight with your world, or agree with your world, or ignore your world. Fight with your world, agree with your world, ignore your world. This is the very rotation of consciousness that causes what the Buddha and other teachers down into the centuries refer to as samsara, or the wheel of life and death. Who you are, your body is born and it's going to die. Like you're saying, don't you think I know that? But what is not going to die is that which has not been born. And who you actually are, if I may be so bold to point this out to you, my friends, is unborn. Who you actually are doesn't come into existence the way the body does. The body-mind comes into existence, has ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, feet, hopefully. Maybe if you don't have feet, you'll live your whole life trying to understand why you weren't born with feet. So there's all kinds of things that can take up your time. That would not be a particularly good existence. Perception only. That means that the object of the perception, you're seeing this, and the identity, the apparent or imputed identity, the believed identity that is you, your, shall we say, ego, your self-centeredness, your narcissism, your ego, witnesses that. And you think, I may be so bold to say this, that you think they're two different things. And you think you can get away from some objects and grasp other objects and ignore other objects. And you can, for a little while. That's called illusion, and it's also called delusion. You're deluded about the nature of your world. You have conflicting emotions. You want this, but then you have another emotion that does not want that. I want this, but I shouldn't have it. I want that, but that's too much. I want to go there, but I might get in trouble. And then the other one of the two veils, classically called the two veils, is mistaken beliefs about the nature of reality, just thinking that there is more than one thing. One of the ways that you can look at this is to see if, pick out an afternoon, pick out 10 minutes, and stop believing everything. Stop believing, stop disbelieving, and stop ignoring, and just receive. Don't produce anything particularly, just receive. Receive colors, receive shapes, receive voices, receive sounds, receive smells, receive all that, all through the six sense fields, including the mind. Just receive, put everything on receive, and just observe that. And it seems necessary to have a sitting practice. It seems necessary to have a practice where you're doing what? You're training your mind, you're training your mind to just observe. Very simple. Like it's just like you're turning yourself into you could say, like a scientist. I'm just going to observe. I'm just going to see what is fundamentally there. And what you will notice is when you endeavor to do that sitting meditation, you will notice that your mind comes in with all kinds of commentary on what that is. I like it, I don't like it, it's good, it's bad, I shouldn't think this, I shouldn't be thinking that. That's just wrong. Or, I really want to have good thoughts, and then you start thinking kind, nice, peaceful thoughts. Not incorrect, it's just that it's circular. So, what was the title of the talk again?
The primary assumptions.
All right, thanks. Primary. First, primary, just before the second thing. Anybody got any other definitions for primary? Like primates? What?
You said we do not come into existence, or who we are fundamentally does not come into existence. As long as we're in a body, what is our responsibility to the relative things that do arise and fall in this relative world?
Just receive. Be a good host for everything that happens, even really threatening, difficult things. Fight with anything, you're going to lose. You're not going to lose you might win fighting with something, but fundamentally you will lose because you will suffer. I'm not condemning you to anything. I'm just relaying how this looks from not only from this perspective, but from these teachings that go back 2,500 years. More.
Something else you said was pick an afternoon, stop believing, disbelieving, looking away. How would you encourage us to go about that?
First, sit all morning. Sit and practice not buying it, not selling it, not shutting down. And the way we do that is if you sit still, which all of you have done a little bit of sitting, even those of you who are new, sit down, hold still, and we'll just watch. And what you will see if you do that and hold the body very still, the awareness will start to track things that are in motion. And one of the things that is always in motion, it seems, is the mind. It's always saying, I like it, I don't like it, it's good, it's bad, I shouldn't do that. What about that one time? How am I ever going to stop that from happening? Am I going to be able to fix this relationship? Am I going to be able to keep this job? Am I going to be able to stop this addiction or whatever it may be, anything? Am I going to be able to get a new car? And it seems that by observing that, watching that go, what happens, it takes time. What happens over time is we begin to see that there's an object that's there and there's an apparent subject that we're evaluating. We're evaluating how we're doing, and we're evaluating what we're doing it with. So we're maintaining that duality all the time. And what is being recommended and suggested is just stay in the perception of it. That takes time to do. You can't listen to one class like this one night and begin to practice that. It would be very unusual. But you could train your mind, which is what the teaching I say, repeat over and over. Don't go through life without training your mind. Because if you go through life without training your mind, then any uninspected or unaware aspects of your karma, your body, speech, mind, your whole dynamic, your temper, your ability to control things, your ability to lose control, your name it. I mean, there's just so many things: passion, aggression, ignorance, all the different things that go on. If you don't inspect that and look at it and get to know that and fundamentally find that area in your own mind, your psyche, where there's some kind of lower level warfare going on. I don't like this, I don't like this, I like that. Find that and just look at that and see where that's getting its energy from. Generally, it's getting its energy from some kind of internal politics about right and wrong, about correct and incorrect. That may be, in my modern psychological jargon, parent tapes. You know, the tapes your parents, like they poured a bucket of garbage in your head. And this isn't to blame them, because they had something done to them, and then their parents had something done to them. And the culture is constantly yelling at you and saying, get a job, be prolific, don't pay your own way. And it's just endless, just saying a couple of them, but they're all over the place. We begin talking to our young people right away. Well, you got to get a good education. I'm going to say it, and I'm not going to swear, but I'm going to say it. That's just stupid. How's that? Leave your children alone. Help them if they ask for help, but please get out of the politics of children business. Don't educate your children according to your own crazy mentality, this kind of stuff you've been brought up with, that you're trying to hide out from because you're trying to not treat your kids the way you were treated. How many times have you said that to yourself? Good luck. I really like you guys, in case you're wondering.
So we sit all morning. What do we do in the afternoon to stop believing, disbelieving, or looking away?
Very good, thank you. And what you will find if you sit a lot, that when you do sit down and you look at belief, disbelief, you'll notice that you can't help it. That it's a knee-jerk kind of, it's like you just think some things are true. But the inspection of that over a long period of time will cause that to slow down. There's no guarantee, because it's very different with each person, and there's no way to, get a guarantee or a warranty on it. So what you're doing is you're sitting down, holding still, and you're practicing, and then maybe later in the day you're actually setting up a time when you're going to look and see, what do you believe? What do you disbelieve? Why do you believe some things and not others? Or what is belief based on? I'm not talking about knowing something. You know this is wood, but this could be vinyl. It's not. Sometimes they're making things so amazing that you can't really tell what they're made of anymore. So what you would be doing is you would be seeing the way in which you keep grasping. Like I said, talking about Vasubandhu's statement, if consciousness ceases to reside in perception only, just the perception, not what's perceived and not the perceiver. Not the perceiver and not what's perceived, but consciousness or awareness resides in the perception. Just seeing, just hearing, just smelling, just tasting, just touching, just thinking. Very simple, one-shot deal. It arises and it vanishes. Then the twofold grasping of that internal warfare about everything will continue to function, won't cease to operate. It'll just continue to take you apart, and you'll be challenged by some things and praised by other things and ignored by other things. More.
Do you teach any relative practices that we could do in the midst of our day-to-day life of working with that?
One of the things that I teach as a relative practice is don't do anything unless you have to. If you're doing something you don't have to do, you're gambling. You don't have to do it. Stay put. You're not missing anything. All you're doing is missing tumbling around in the casino of life. Don't do it. Stay put. Because if you jump up and start doing things based on hope and fear and on impulse and on maybe this will work, don't say that to yourself. If you have to say maybe that it will work, what do you got? Maybe 50-50. But look at what happens. Then you tend to go this way or go that way. Hold still and wait. It's called patience. I'm sure you've heard of that. I could come up with a fancy word, but I'm not going to. Just sit, hold still, get up, fix breakfast, sit back down. I'm not saying that you sit there until you starve to death. You're probably going to have to get a job, but that's something you have to do. In our society, you got to get a job. Go get one. Send me some money. So I can continue to be a lazy old monk. So fundamentally what I'm saying is don't do anything unless you have to. And in this way, you won't miss the thing that you would have been missing had you been looking at, I should try this, maybe I'll try that. Well, maybe this will work. Well, maybe this relationship, or maybe this person's pretty nice. It'd be nice to be in a relationship. Don't do it. I mean, if you're madly in love, then what I'm saying goes out the window anyway. But don't try things out. I mean, you also might want to let things try you out. If something comes your way, you can have the door open, because then it might turn in such a way that you see that this is something I need to do. I don't need to check with Sokuzan and see if this is okay. So you become more clear about your, I can call them options. I don't really use that word much. I don't think I ever use the word options. What I say is you either do it or you don't do it. It's very black and white, or it's really cat and mouse, which might be a better way of explaining duality. Yes.
Shane out in California.
Shane again.
He asks, can you gamble with awareness?
No, awareness just receives. unless it's in the service of some kind of crazy thinking process that's working out of what? Paranoia. But then the awareness is all sucked into the carburetor of paranoia, and that runs the whole thing. And you run off this way and run off that way and push on this and push on that and fight with this and make peace with this. But you only make peace because there's something in it for you. Control. Look, if you want to see how much control you have, this is my favorite example. See how that's working for you. So go look in the mirror. Pick one feature that you controlled. Now, if you've had a facelift, that's different. But that's actually manipulating something that was already there. So we don't say, oh, I wanted really bigger nostrils. You know how many times you've wished for that. I would say look in the mirror and really look closely. Give it if you're looking in the mirror for 8 minutes without particularly thinking up anything other than just observing, just observe. Skin color, whatever your skin color is, that, freckles or not, or nose, eyes. In my case, one eyebrow is higher than the other. I'm always looking askance, even when there's no ascances around. So if you're looking in the mirror, what you're going to see is all the complete evidence, proof. You have no say so about this life. You came here. You didn't sit back and say, "Oh, what the hell? I'm going to be a human being. I'm tired of being an alien. I'm tired of being a hungry ghost. I'm tired of being nobody. I think I'll try out being a human being." Probably not going to work out too well. Probably going to be really, really difficult. And you are going to, and when I say I'm not condemning you or anything, but whatever you are, whatever's happening in your life, I don't care what it is, I don't care how horrible it is, it's a lesson. It's something that you could actually look at and learn from and understand and please, if you can, but of course, don't do anything unless you have to, but if you can, just be with that. Just be a good, as I've said before, be a good host. The other thing I've been pointing out lately, as I love to point out things, is a kind of generosity that you can do all the time. You can do it all the time, and that's about giving something. Generosity is about giving something. This may surprise you what it is. Give your attention to everything. Don't miss anything. If you're busy thinking and evaluating and texting yourself in your head from one ear to the other, give everything your attention. Just receive what's coming and give it your attention. Actually give attention to that situation. And in this way, clarify who you are, what you're about, what is really important to you, which is probably something along the line of happiness. Happiness is already the case. You just spend your whole life covering it up with, I want this, I don't want that, I like this, I shouldn't do that, I should do this, they said this, they said that. How can I get what I want? How can I keep the bad things away? How can I get the good things? And sometimes when a huge, bright, shining platter of gold is brought to you, laid down in front of you out of nowhere, it freaks you out because I don't think I deserve that. I'm just looking at Chazon because I know that he won't react to anything I say. What I'm saying is we don't know how to receive, which if something kind of steps out of line that doesn't match our expectations, and all of a sudden somebody's being extremely kind to us, loving us, caring about us, really loves us, we start to get paranoid. You think, what do they want? You wouldn't say it out loud. You kind of, what the hell do they want? You notice my lips aren't moving? So what's new? You know what's snoozing? Your mind. That wasn't too bad, was it? In other words, you're going to say, keep your day job. So, whatever is occurring, as far as perception only, as far as consciousness only, as far as slowly stepping away or outside of or clarifying your crazy mind of passion, aggression, ignorance, warfare, on, circular. I like it, I don't like it, it's good, it's bad, I'm succeeding, no, I'm failing, I'm succeeding, no, I'm failing. It's just it's an endless flow of just painful advertisements.
Sanho from Saginaw wants to know, what is awareness?
So awareness is a concept that points to something that's very difficult to describe or elaborate on, but probably the best way to describe it, to respond to Sanho's question, is it's just the space in which things occur. It's just a space, and if you look at your mind over time, especially if you do it looking at a wall, eventually all the formations, the thoughts, the ideas, the memories, the hopes, the fears, which show up kind of like clouds in the sky, eventually, if you look at it long enough, you'll see that actually you are not your thoughts. You may be more like a sky, but if you look long enough, you'll see that you're not even a sky. You're actually the thoughts. This is called, ready? Happiness. I wish you well. I wish you well. Yes.
John in North Carolina has a question.
John.
2 questions.
What is it?
He asks, how do practices like loving kindness meditation or chanting work as awareness practices? And then do they work the same way as Zazen?
So they're not as separate from it as they might look, but a lot of times the Maitri Bhavana or kindness or generosity practices kind of help you see how stingy you are. Rather than actually you're becoming more generous, you kind of see, this is really hard to put other people before myself. And then when you do mantra practice, instead of actually doing it as an awareness practice, you get to see how much it puts you to sleep. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. You do Om Mani Padme Hum a few 100,000 times, and you'll sleep. How do I know? I know how I know. So this doesn't mean that we shouldn't do mantra practice. It doesn't mean that just because, and sometimes when people sit in front of the wall and do zazen, shikantaza, they say, oh, I can't stay awake, I keep falling asleep. I say, good, fall asleep. That's awareness too. Awareness that you're falling asleep, awareness. Awareness that you're wide awake and bored, awareness. Awareness that your mind is flooded with thoughts and more thoughts, awareness. Awareness is king, awareness is queen. What's that other one? Awareness is them. Those guys. So it's the awareness we're trying to strengthen. We're not trying to get our mind to calm down or be nice or do anything. We're trying to get that awareness so that's more of a priority, so that whatever does happen in our life, we're meeting it with, not with our thought patterns, our paranoia, our hope and fear, and our judgments, our evaluations, and our navigations, and our strategies about every damn thing. So how to get better, how to get rich, how to. Instead, we're meeting it with our awareness, which then, if you meet it with your awareness, you see exactly what you need to do. Now, exactly what you need to do might freak some people out, because you're present. You're living in this world, and they're living in this world. Anytime you start to believe your thoughts, you might as well be covering up your eyes or your awareness. You're covering yourself up, and you're substituting perception only for a bunch of imposters called thoughts, ideas, judgments, opinions. Please don't do that. Listen to me. Just listen to what I'm saying. So you don't have to be a Buddhist, you don't have to believe in any of this. I don't care. You may need to, because this is a place where It's like trying to be in a garbage dump and jog. You can't because there's too much garbage. I mean, you can run around a little bit, but the next thing you know, you got an oatmeal box in your foot. So the exercise comes to a halt. But in here, this is meant to be. It's meant to be this way. So create a space in your home, a little, spread things out. If your neighbors come and say, "What's that? What's that box with a candle on it or incense? What's that about?" And that's where I meditate. What do you mean meditate? I sit still and I train my mind. And if they don't ask you anymore, don't say anymore. Sell nothing. Never advertise anything. Somebody needs to know how to meditate. You won't be able to keep them away. Further. Chun-chu.
Earlier you said that we generally relate to things in a rotation of passion, aggression, and ignorance.
Seems that way.
What would it look like to relate to something without kicking that wheel to keep it going?
Yeah. So the way it would look, and this is just to respond to your question, it might not exactly be this way, but you would watch passion come up and you wouldn't do anything with it. You wouldn't try to get rid of it. You would watch intense feelings of maybe real irritation with someone. You do nothing with it. It's just there. It just appears. You don't blame somebody for why you're feeling that way, and you don't blame yourself for why you're feeling it. You don't say, "Oh, here I go again." Doesn't work. Or if you say, "Well, if they hadn't done this, I wouldn't be going through this crap." So those two there. No praise, no blame. It's not that there isn't some relative, if I hit somebody, then obviously I'm the one who hit you. But as I've said before, here's just a very simple example. Here's something happening that's just a one-shot deal. You have this kotsu, this stick, and you hit the tabletop, something happens. You could say, "Well, this caused that." But you could say that, just like if I were to strike someone, I would be causing that. But there's a whole lot of imputation and imagination going on there that is imputing or crediting what's being hit and who's doing the hitting with a lot of strong identity that is separate. When fundamentally, this can't happen without these hands, and this hands can't happen without this body, and this body can't happen without my mother and father and their mothers and fathers, and down through history, all of the dependently arisen situations that have been coming out of basic biology. And then this tree, and someone who carved this, and someone who built this table, and someone who, and the fact that this table is here, and the fact that I'm here and I'm doing that. The causes and conditions go on like, as it in the teachings it talks about a tributary steep stream flowing in the darkness. You can't see all the causes and conditions, but you can begin to understand that whatever occurs is backed up by absolutely untraceable causes and conditions. They're uncountable. There's so many. They never come to an end. What is that called? Dependent origination, not separate. You have to see it. You can't just think about it and believe in it and even preach it to someone else. You have to see it. And if you see it, you probably won't even know what you're seeing. Choo-choo.
If I start to see passion arising, seems like there's a little bit of space before I do something with it.
Could be.
Is it just a matter of making that space bigger and bigger? And
you don't have to, don't matter with the space at all. Because the space is just something that awareness is imputing to that. It's imagining the space. And so, one more thing. So if you watch it, eventually the space will shrink. And then it'll get larger again. Seduction. It's ego. Ego wants you to give you some credentials so you'll think you're getting better. Nothing happens. If you think something happens, you'll suffer. This doesn't mean something isn't happening. But it means that both something is happening and nothing happening. And again, not two. Anytime you can find one thing, find its opposite, and then tell yourself, repeat what I'm saying. If you find one thing that you think is something separate from everything else, find the opposite to it. And then see what that would look like if those were not separate. Because They aren't separate. Not something to believe. Don't believe anything. Further questions? Junchu?
Does if I see passion arising and I see the space and then I see the reaction to the passion or the meddling with it,
Yes.
is that meddling coming out of the space? What is where is the meddling coming from?
It's that's where the grasping at a self. It's a very subtle thing. What you're doing is you're taking the perception, and you're not satisfied with just the perception because it doesn't reinforce anything. It's just perception, and it's very similar to nothing happening at all, if not the same thing. It's just a perception, and then we impute the motion. Fundamentally, from the point of view of realization, if you want to call it a point of view, there is no past and future. There's just this. Past and future is an illusion. And it's a pretty powerful illusion. It's almost as powerful as a hammer on the head. Pretty powerful. More? Go ahead. Keep coming.
How do we stay with the perception?
Pardon me?
How do we stay with the perception?
You don't stay with it. It's just a touch and go. No agenda. No agenda about maintaining anything. It's very, very threatening to ego. Ego wants some kind of a protocol that's going to work. It wants a guarantee, and it wants to know that what it's doing. That's why it's so difficult to meditate, because when you sit down and meditate, this is not happy making for ego. Ego doesn't like this. But that's why it's necessary to have a teacher, a teaching, and a community of people who understand this. Not true believers. We're not talking about something we all believe in. It's not like theistic approaches to spirituality. And they're not wrong. Those people are doing what they need to do and need to be left alone. And we're doing what we need to do if we're in fact doing it, which is a non-theistic approach to the spiritual path. So not separating, not positing any kind of a creator person that's higher than us, better than us.
Jim up in Muskegon, he's got 3 other people watching with him tonight.
Okay, James.
And he has 2 questions. You said that happiness is already the case, that we don't know how to receive, that we cover things up. What practice can teach us how to receive? Is Zazen enough?
Well, it could be. Or Shikantaza, just sitting, just receiving. But also there are other practices of, like I was saying, the post-meditation practice, or when you get up and you go and fix breakfast, or if you're talking to your friends or your enemies, or just out you're at the post office and you're standing in line, you need to give everything your attention. And keep it simple. Look at the colors that people are wearing. Look at the movement, the way people's body language, rather than looking at necessarily their age or their skin color or anything that might trigger some kind of conditioned response coming out of the cultural context within which you were raised. Because there's a whole bunch of things buried there, as I'm sure you know. And we're not trying to get rid of those, but we're trying to say, let's just be here. Just notice gravity. Don't forget gravity. Gravity is, if gravity forgot you, which it's not, you know what would happen. You wouldn't be able to use the bathroom. And other stuff too, but sorry, bad joke. Yes.
So when you say happiness is already the case,
yes.
If we're suffering intensely with something occurring in our lives, are we supposed to try to do away with that, or be happy in the midst of that suffering?
Well, you might be, because we're in an apparent cause and effect. We're in a, it's like you're already on the tilt-a-whirl, you're already on the merry-go-round, you've already gotten on it. So you may have to see that it might take some gradual kind of slowly slowing down and getting off from that and stay away from things that are spinning. You've got karma that is coming, showing up as you're As I said before, go look in the mirror. This has taken many, many lifetimes. And I'm not here to promote lifetimes, past lives. I'm not interested in getting you to believe anything. But something is happening, because this didn't just suddenly show up, 25 years ago or 30 years ago, or whatever your age is. It didn't just come out of nowhere. It came out of incredible causes and conditions going back to beginningless time. Human beings or organisms coming out, and consciousness springing forth out of the organism. Watch a little bug. Incredible consciousness is happening. They're just astonishing. And we think nothing of just that, kill it. We don't think anything of it. We don't think anything of blowing something apart or eating it. But then again, it's not about not doing that. It's about being aware of what's happening. So you realize that you're in a completely sacred space called consciousness. If you're going to be alive, you have to eat something. If you're going to be alive, you're going to have to kill something that's alive. You can't eat cardboard. Even cardboard was alive at one time. It was a tree. So, yes.
Should there be any type of mitigating that, like, wearing animal fur, or I guess, should we do anything in that realm?
No, because to do that, what it'll do is, if you do that, then then you're into politics, which is not workable. There's too many axes flying through the air. So you don't train your mind. If you train your mind, then you'll know whether you should walk into that situation of not wearing fur. I'm not saying you should go out and cover yourself with fur. Go the opposite, but stay in the context of your culture. Even in our situation, this is not like a Zen monastery in California that is very much trying to look like Japanese stuff. We do some of that, but we're careful about how we use the form to train the mind, not use the form to make sure we're doing it right. We don't do right and wrong here. We might do something that's outside of the way we're doing the form, but we handle that and we work with that and do it in as respectful a way as possible. So as far as not wearing leather shoes or anything, if you want to do that, if you feel like that helps you, but quite often what that does, that builds up a little bitty ego like this. It's a little bit better than everybody else. I'm the special person who doesn't do that. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying you shouldn't join PETA, or you shouldn't be for animal rights, or you shouldn't find some way to stop all the suffering for animals, because it's horrible. But as I say, when I say pick your battles, I'm saying don't do anything unless you have to. If you do that, then what arises, what you really need to do, it's more likely that may show up, and it may be an actual path for you rather than a path that's kind of an imposter path or a substitute. I'll do this. This will be easier. That way I'll look good to my other animal lovers because I'm doing this. Just like not just like it, because we don't know what went through her cerebellum, but the woman who was marching to save animals and started shooting at people. It's just like intense confusion over that. Actually, just like we do one way, we value the human over the animal, and she just turns it around and values the animal over the human. I'm not saying that's what she did, but there was some kind of confusion going on there that was maybe somewhat similar to that. No mind training happening there. Further questions? Yes.
What is the benefit of mind training?
So mind training, using that word, mind training is to see what something actually is on the other side of your judgment about it. So it's to see through the opinions about yourself, about the world, about reality, to actually see what is fundamentally true. If you see what is fundamentally true, you're not getting rid of what is relatively true. This is wood. This is a sound. That's the absence of a sound. There's another sound. That sound happens somewhere or not. So what we're doing is we're training our mind to sit very still and see what is fundamentally true. We think our mind is separate from our body. You think you can do one thing with your mind and something else with your body. No, you're pretty much screwed. And whatever your mind's doing, your body's doing that, or it's at least echoing that. Whatever your body's doing, your mind is mind and the body are not, they're separated somewhat, but they're not separate. They're not, maybe not as separated as your two ears, but there is a separation happening that is fundamentally not separate. So training the mind is just to see what is the mind? What is a mind? What is a thought? Rather than just sit around and think, be hounded by your thoughts. Actually hold still and watch thoughts come and go. See if you can see a thought appear, see how it looks and see what it's doing, and then watch it go. See if there's a headlight and a tail light. And be real literal about it. Probably not, but you might have an experience of what that is. And I can tell you in a couple of words what that shows up as after a while. But then again, it's for you to discover that. It's not separate. Thoughts are not separate from anything else. You don't have to stop your thoughts. Have a couple of minutes if there's any. Yes. Go on.
You say just observe. What's the difference between that which is observed and what our belief in what it is?
So, if we believe it's a bell, and we believe it's a little door J, if we take that for example, it's a bell, I can prove it's a bell. And so we impute what that is. And it does respond and looks like one, and people will agree, yes, that's a bell. But if you see what that fundamentally is, it's not separate. It has a separation, but it's fundamentally not separate. You can even say, you are that bell. Whatever you are, whatever this is, whatever this observer is not separate from the bell. And I'm not trying to give you a headache, but I'm just saying that has to be seen. You actually have to see the way you look at something, and then you add thoughts to it. I often say, I'm saying now. Don't do the math. Don't do any math at all. Math is like something happens and we add on. We add to it. We subtract from it. In other words, we like it, we don't like it, or judge it, or we, what's that other one called? Multiplication table? No. Long division. Yeah. We add, we subtract, we divide, that's right. We divide ourselves away from it. But don't do anything with that. And even if that happens, don't stop it. If it keeps going, if it comes back, don't stop it. Don't interfere with anything. Whatever's arising is exactly what you need to see. Train your mind. Liberate yourself. And the kind of freedom I'm talking about is not the freedom from something. It's fundamental freedom. There isn't anything to be free from. And there isn't anything to be addicted to or attached to. There isn't anything that doesn't belong to you. Should I keep preaching, or should we end? Final question from anyone? Yes?
How does observing separation help us see no separation?
Because we look at the separation without adding anything to it. So we see that we're separating ourselves. We see the separation, and we see that you can't have a separation unless you're assuming there are two things. If you can see that the two things are not separate, then there is no separation. It's like some simple example. You can't have night without day. You can't have light without darkness. Simple, but if you reflect just that simple one, the way we know about light is from darkness or shadow. Well, if things were always one thing and not the other, so you need the two-ness of the situation so you can see that fundamentally not two, light and dark, are not separate from each other. They get their meaning from each other.
Does awareness help us develop a willingness to not get better?
It could. There might be some kind of willingness or a wish to see more clearly. And so we know that we might have to push further. It's like going down a path that's very dark and brambles and sinkholes and what do they call those things? Squamitos? Things that bit you when you were in India? Those little things are after you. And it's just like, well, I'm on this path. I'm on this path. I want to be here. I want to go to the end of this path. So that kind of willingness. It's like, this doesn't feel very good, and it looks like I have quite a ways to go, and I'm going to stop checking the roadmap. I know where the path is. I can see it. I'm going there. I'm going to do this. So it's a sense of dedication, devotion, intention. All kinds of words in our lineage. We know how difficult this is, so we become monks, some of us, or we receive precepts so that we can say, I want to do this. I want to stay on this path. I don't know how long my life will be, but I've stumbled into this path of the Buddha, because that's your path. Maybe not for everyone, but so I want to do this. I'm going to do this. And I'm no longer looking for an outcome. I'm not going to look for it. I'm going to, you could say, give the benefit of the doubt to the Buddhist teachings, or to the Buddha, or to the teacher, or to the Sangha, the community. I'm going to do this. Because if you go back and forth and evaluate, then you get in what Trungpa Rinpoche, my first teacher, called a spiritual supermarket. You try this kind of yoga and this kind of meditation and this kind of meditation app, and I don't like that app. I think I'm going to use this other app because it actually tells me I'm doing pretty good. This one app actually you can tell when you're having alpha waves, and that means, you know what that means. You have an alpha waves coming off your head. Meditation is not about alpha waves. Although they want to make it that way because they want to concretize, they want to materialize meditation so that they can prove that some meditations are good and some meditations are not good, and so on and so forth, and make money and sell apps, and on and on and on. Even though Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche thinks meditation apps are okay, I think he's wrong. Well, except for that one app might be all right, but probably not. Very good, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll stand and dedicate the merit in the back of our red chant books. I'd also like to remind everybody about the donation boxes that are in the hallway. We need and appreciate any financial support you can help us with, also through PayPal or with debit and credit cards.
May the merit of this penetrate into all places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Jiro san ji fu, shi son bu san mo ko san, mo ko ja. The 10 directions, the 3 worlds, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, please hear us. Please come down out of the light and protect Sokukoji Buddhist Temple Monastery, our Sangha, families, friends, and visitors. Heal everyone who is unhappy, sick, or suffering, and fill them with light.